Imagine standing perfectly still at the edge of a rapidly flowing river. You're hungry, and the food you need swims just below the surface. For tens of thousands of years, the solution was entirely tactile. You reached slowly beneath a rock, waited for a fish to rest against your skin, and you grabbed it. Bare hands, direct physical contact. Then came a tool, a sharpened, fire-hardened stick thrust into the shallows. But this innovation introduced a new problem. A spear severs the physical connection between the hunter and the prey. You can no longer feel the fish before you strike. By moving from hands to a projectile, early humans traded a simple biological reflex for a complex problem in physical space. You are on that riverbank, and you clearly see a fish holding steady in the current. Millions of years of terrestrial evolution have wired a specific instinct into your brain. You track a target visually, and you aim exactly where your eyes perceive it to be. So you strike straight down that line of sight, and you miss. Every single time. The spear passes harmlessly above the fish. Your eyes are functioning perfectly. Your aim is flawless. Yet trusting your visual senses in this environment leads to certain failure. Hitting a submerged target requires overriding human instinct to calculate the geometric optics of light. The success of spearfishing relied on an early form of applied physics rather than sheer brute force. The obstacle between the hunter and the meal is a microscopic physical barrier, the surface of the water itself. This diagram shows a cross-section of the water's surface, illustrating the refractive index, a measurement of how different environments resist the travel of light. The air above the river has an index of roughly 1.0, while the water sits at 1.33. This physical reality dictates that light waves travel significantly slower through the dense medium of water than they do through the sparse medium of air. Consider the visual data bouncing off the submerged fish. It begins its journey by traveling upward toward the surface. The moment that light ray breaks the surface and exits the water, it rapidly accelerates. This sudden acceleration causes the light ray's trajectory to sharply bend away from its perfectly vertical alignment, shifting its path toward the shoreline. Before the visual data ever reaches a human eye, the water-air interface distorts its geometry. Once that bent light reaches the riverbank, the human brain must process the distorted data. Our optical hardware evolved entirely on land. It operates on a hardwired assumption that light always travels in perfectly straight lines. When the visual cortex receives the incoming light ray, it automatically extrapolates that path backward. It ignores the bend at the water's surface, projecting a straight line down into the water. This cognitive projection creates an optical illusion known as a virtual image. Because of the straight line projection, the brain plots the target distinctly shallower and higher than the actual physical object. This evolutionary bias forces the brain to chase a phantom. A submerged fish is never where it appears to be. This optical distortion is governed by rigid physical laws, specifically Snell's law of refraction. The displacement between the virtual image and the physical fish is not a static measurement. The distortion changes based on where the hunter is standing. If you stand almost directly over the target, creating a steep viewing angle, the optical shift is minimal. But if you observe a fish from further down the bank, you create a much shallower angle of attack. This shallower angle amplifies the refraction. The gap between the ghosted fish your brain sees and the solid fish in the water widens significantly. To find the true target, a successful hunter must calculate both their distance from the prey and the angle of their strike simultaneously. Ancient humans solved this dynamic, multivariable geometric equation through sheer observation and constant physical repetition, entirely bypassing formal mathematics. Now, return to that hunter on the riverbank, making a split-second decision to strike. To eat, they must execute a massive cognitive leap. They must distrust their own eyes and intentionally aim at the empty space below the visual target. The spear travels along this calculated offset trajectory, breaking the water's surface to intersect with the actual solid fish. This success represents a triumph of learned behavior. The hunter has overridden millions of years of ingrained visual motor instincts. Achieving this required paying closer attention to the relationship between physical reality and water than any other species on Earth. Developing a technique to correct for environmental refraction moved human hunting beyond simple biological reflex and into the realm of applied physics. That individual solution to a physics problem soon translated into a massive advantage for the species. By figuring out how to pierce the water barrier with a spear, early humans laid the conceptual groundwork for more complex tools designed to extract a surplus of calories. Eventually, they developed the gorge hook and woven nets. These tools bypassed the optical distortion by turning fishing from a precise individual strike into an indirect, scalable process. A net requires weaving, deployment, and retrieval by multiple people. It took a solitary engineering challenge and turned it into a coordinated, social technology. This chart tracks ancient population density and settlement size. Notice how the metrics remain flat during the eras of tactile and spear hunting, then curve sharply upward following the introduction of woven nets. Pulling reliable calorie surpluses from the water allowed human populations to stay in one place and build permanent villages. These persistent surpluses enabled the specialization of labor. If a portion of the population could catch enough fish for the entire group, others were freed to innovate other technologies rather than hunt for daily survival. By solving the optical problems presented by the water's surface, early humans secured a reliable calorie source that supported the growth of stationary, permanent communities.